my last video of this series. We're going to talk about exponents and integers. And we're going to talk first about exponents without any integers. So we're going to use the example of 5 squared. Okay? And when you do exponent, my suggestion is to always write it out. So 5 squared is 5 times 5. 5 times 5 is 25. Okay? I'm also going to write down PEMDAS. So we've talked about what PEMDAS means. Okay, and in PEMDAS, this fits under exponents. So this is an exponent. Okay? So I'm going to erase this part. And I'm going to tack on something in front of the problem we just did. Okay, so I'm going to tack on, so let me erase this blue mark, and I'm going to change the problem just slightly. Now I'm going to stick on this negative sign. Okay, so if you see a negative in front of your exponent, this negative falls under the PEMDAS rule under multiply. Okay, so using our rules with PEMDAS, that means I have to do the exponent first. So just like we did in the last one, 5 times 5, and then I'm going to multiply after. So this negative gets brought down. So now I have negative 5 times 5, which is a negative 25. Okay, so slightly different from the last problem. Okay, so I'm going to keep up that 5 squared. So make sure you're writing all this down. Okay, I'm going to keep up that 5 squared. I'm going to erase this. I'm going to erase this. Okay, and I'm going to slightly change it again. And now, I'm going to put the negative inside the parentheses, because you are going to see problems like this. So now, the only thing that I see within PEMDAS is exponents. Okay, and what this says is I'm going to do the negative 5 times negative 5. Notice that my negative is inside the parentheses because that 2 means I'm taking this and I'm doing it 2 times. Negative times a negative, we just talked about in the last video, the signs agree. It's going to give me a positive. Okay? So notice the difference between negative 5 versus the negative and then 5 squared. Okay? So 2 very different things. Okay? So we're going to do one more problem. Okay, now I'm going to put a negative on the outside of here. Okay? And again, that negative on the outside means multiply. Okay? Following my PEMDAS rules, that means I have to do my exponent first. So negative 5 times negative 5. Okay, this negative on the outside that's being multiplied gets brought down. Okay? So I could either multiply this together and then multiply by this, or I can just use that rule that we used in the previous video where I can add the number of negatives to figure out if it's going to be negative or positive. 1, 2, 3. That's 3 negatives. I mean, that's an odd number of negatives. That means my answer has to be negative. 5 times 5 is 25. Okay? So when you do these problems, make sure you're following PEMDAS. Make sure you know, is the negative coming along for the right inside the parentheses, or is it coming along as a multiplication problem? Okay? And at the end, make sure that you're counting the correct number of negatives so that you know your final answer is positive or negative. Okay? So you don't know if it's positive or negative until you do the problem out. So let's do one more example. Okay? So if you had something like negative 2 to the power of 3. Okay, so this gets brought down. Okay, and then I'm going to do this part. So I like to circle it just to see that I can see it's not connected. So -2, -2, -2. I'm going to stamp it 3 times, count the number of negatives, 1, 2, 3, 4. That tells me it's positive. 2 times 2 times 2 is a positive 8. Okay, and then the last one we'll do really fast. So what happens if it's just -2 to the third? Okay, so make sure you know this 2 is not coming along for the ride when you do your exponents. 2 times 2 times 2, giving us a -8. Alright, I hope these videos helped. I hope you kill it when it comes to integers. And it just takes a lot of practice, but I know you can do it. And I'll see you next time.